So it's so fascinating that when people find this idea of new thought, they really get excited. And they get excited because they hear something that really tickles them. They find out that there's a power that's within them that they are able to use to create their life. And they find out that this power that was within them is their thoughts. And I've witnessed many, many, many people over the years embrace the teaching, come in and try to shift their thoughts, and little things will happen, but then something big will happen, and they're not able to do it, and they fall away. So the question that's often asked, one of the biggest questions asked in New Thought is, why don't all thoughts create? And that's what we're going to explore. You see, one of the things we have to embrace is the idea that we are the observer, we are the participant, we are the creator, and we are the created. You're hearing that? Because we observe. Quantum physics says there's an infinite world of possibility that exists everywhere at all times. And when it is observed, it collapses into form, into experience. So we're the observer. We're looking out at an infinite field of possibility. What happens here, though, is we have been so conditioned in our lives that instead of seeing an infinite world of possibility everywhere present, we see a small piece of what is possible, and it's only present over there, not present everywhere, and not infinite. And so by that perception, which our thoughts we've adopted, we've limited the scope of where we can be and what we can experience. So the observer has a real big aspect in it. So we have to open our eyes and see a bigger idea, a bigger field of play. Isn't that a great word? A bigger field of play. Because we weren't meant to be serious. We were meant to play. We were given this ability as individualizations of God, which we are, to go out into an infinite field of possibilities that's everywhere present, always present for us, and we were meant to play in it. And I want to make a distinction. Play and drama are not the same thing. Somehow, we in our society have gotten real confused about this idea of drama. Everywhere you go, you cannot turn but say, did you hear about this? Do you know about that? That's not playing. And when you buy into the drama, the whole scope of the infinite field of possibilities gets narrowed down. We limit ourselves by dancing in that dance. So we're the observer. We're also the thinker. We're participants. See, we participate by thinking. Most of the time, we've unplugged. That's the key to unconscious living. We've unplugged from the idea that we have this power, that we have this ability to create. And we unplug it and we live our lives from habit. We live from a habit of thought, a habit of behavior. We have reactions to people that are habitual. You ever see that? Try someone in your life that comes up to you that you have a certain reaction and you know who those people are and react differently. You will attract a whole different experience because you've shifted the energy of who you are. That energy opens up to a greater consciousness. The infinite field of possibility comes in and bam, you get a different experience. It's just that simple. It's really a simple process. It just doesn't appear to be easy because we have been conditioned not to follow our own independent thought. In other words, we have given up our authenticity to be the uniqueness that we are, to try to people please, to be like others, and on that we lose ourselves into the abyss of nothingness. That was pretty good. I like that. We lose ourselves in the abyss of nothingness by trying to emulate someone who is not us. The key is we have to be us. And so I was listening to Michael Beckwith the other day. Every once in a while, I like to take a little Michael in and get to see where his consciousness is. And he was talking about relationships. And he was expressing the same thing I get up and say all the time about relationships, using different words. And what I came to understand is that when we're looking at why don't thoughts demonstrate, why don't they demonstrate with respect to relationships, is because the thoughts we are thinking aren't opening ourselves up to a new way of being in relationship. You see, to be in relationship, the first thing we have to do is be authentically ourselves. We're not there to impress anyone. We're not there to be liked by anyone. We're there to be our authentic selves. And when we enter a relationship, whether it's romantic or whether it's non-romantic, a friendship, a bro or a gal relationship, whatever you want to call it, it's for the purpose of reflection. So if I'm being authentic and I'm putting that out there, what's going to be reflected back to me? Who I'm being is going to be reflected back to me. It's got to. It's the law. It's the mirror, the law of the mirrors. I want you to know that I love mirrors. We have this magnificent mirror in our bathroom. It must be 6 feet tall, 10 feet long. I can't get enough time in front of that mirror. I love to go in there. I like to say, ooh, how's that muscle doing? How's that muscle doing? You see, the reason is, and you're looking at me really funny, and that's okay. If you don't fall in love with who you are as you are, no one else can love you. No one else can love you until you love yourself. And that doesn't mean just love yourself body. It means love your mind, love your emotions, love your creativity, love your playfulness, love your ability to interact, love your mind-blowing expression that blows people's minds. Love it. Because if you can't love it, it's going to be reflected back to you that you're not lovable. Do you hear that? Because that's what people do. They reflect back. And so why are people in our lives? They're there to support us and to grow us by reflecting back to us. Reflecting back is not about bitching about. It's not about demanding about. It's about that they will let you know when you are not authentic in a way that is loving. It's not about changing another person. It's about being in relationship and having it flow. And in the flow, it's easy. It's not effortless. In the flow, effort means plugging back into this idea of conscious intention, into this idea of conscious thought, and really thinking it through. Thank you. I am doing this meditation right now. Joya just loves to express when she hears something good, so you keep yelling, girl. Our belief structure is always being formed. And let's go back to the premise of what we believe. It is done unto us as we believe. Jesus said that over and over and over again. That's the simplicity of his teaching. He said, it is done unto us as we believe, and the Father and I are one. So when we connect with the essence that we are the divine expressing, that we are the oneness of God, whatever we believe demonstrates in our lives. Can't get away from it. It's just law. And it behaves the same way for everyone, whether they're thinking, in our definition, good thoughts or bad thoughts. It doesn't matter. You see, the law that creates, the law that is God, that is taking the sum total of consciousness that we're thinking, it creates, it doesn't judge, it doesn't know how to judge. Because if it judged, we wouldn't have free will. You see, that's the gift we've got. We've got the freedom to experience everything in the universe. Now remember, we have this infinite wall of possibility, right? That infinite wall of possibility has the highest high and the lowest of lows. It's not all good stuff based on human standards. But keep in mind, all the stuff that's there is to build contrast so that we can be more identify the contrast and come back into a state of where do we want to express? How do we want to be in this world and be of love? And love doesn't mean you embrace it and you hug it and you love it. It means you accept it as it is. That's unconditional love. You accept it as it is. Marriage fails. Relationship fail, friendships fail, parental relationships fail with children or with grandparents because there's judgment. Without judgments, relationships can thrive. here's the key thing. There's also a time in a relationship that it may have supported and grown, supported and grown, supportive and grown, supportive and grown, and then it may be toxic. It may be toxic because one person wants to grow this way, the other person has no desire. It's not their time. They haven't woken up yet. That's okay because there's an infinite amount of time in life to do that, right? Infinite time. So if that becomes toxic, then what? We move apart. Not good or bad. Don't let society's judging make you judge yourself if you're in that type of situation. Sometimes the greatest love we have is to release someone so that we can open up to our greater self and attract someone who will mirror back to us this greatness that we are at a different level so that we can continue to lift ourselves and become more. That was heard. The question I want to ask, will it be practiced? Because hearing is one thing, practicing is everything. You see, taking this into our daily life, and here's the thing. We talk about a pattern of thought. We talk about a mental atmosphere. So I'm going to get right to the nitty-gritty of this talk. Why don't all thoughts create? Because it's not the individual thought. It is the dominant thought process that we have. It is the dominant mental atmosphere that we have. So if we start, okay, today Lee said this, and so I'm going to start thinking this way. 3 days from now, my life is going to change. I'm going to demonstrate. Well, let's just think about that. We have, 60,000 thoughts a day, something like that? Probably a lot more in my mind. So we go 3 days, we got 200,000 thoughts, right? How many thoughts of that 200,000 did I consciously choose? Assume I do 10%. Have I changed the predominant atmosphere of a dominant thought process that I've built for 62 years? Think about 62 years of thoughts being built up. That's the atmosphere that I am. That's what's created my life to this very moment. Those 62 years of 60,000 plus thoughts a day mounted on top of each other has built this mountain of thought that is Lee. And this mountain of thought that is Lee has demonstrated what's in my physical body, what's in my mental body, what's in my emotional body, what's in my spiritual body, what's in the relationships that I have. It's in everything that I own, think, and do is based on that atmosphere. So it takes time for the thought process, the conscious thought process to demonstrate. I shared earlier that I'm into the Malabeads. I do affirmations every day, and I probably do 20 affirmations a day. 20 times 108, it's roughly, you're going to get over 2,000 affirmations a day. So when I lost my last set of Malabeads after 10 months, I realized I had done over 600,000 affirmations. 600,000 affirmations. I've just moved my mental atmosphere this much. But when you move it this much, think about when you're sailing a ship or a pilot of an airplane. When they turn the direction of that airplane 1 degree, they will go 1,000 miles in a different direction after an hour and a half or so. That's the same thing that happens with our process of our thought. So we start the process and we start building the consciousness. We start building the consciousness. No matter what anyone else is saying, we're building that consciousness. And we get that consciousness turned 1 degree. We've changed the whole direction of our life. Now, we keep feeding that consciousness more and more and more and more. We've turned 2 degrees. Oh my God, 5 years from now, we won't recognize our life. The more we can turn, the more we can be conscious with our thought, the greater and quicker the demonstration is. Where most people fall away from the true teachings of all spirituality is they quit too soon because they've been bought into this crap that it happens like this. It doesn't happen like this. If you are 50 pounds overweight, you're not going to lose it in 2 weeks. You're going to lose a pound a week if you're lucky. Or if you're great, you'll lose 5 pounds in the first week, and then you'll come on down. It takes time. The body didn't get to where it is overnight. It got to there over a period of time. And then we, in our brilliance, say, hey, let's go to Jenny Craig, 25 pounds in 30 days. No. Think about if you lost 25 pounds in 30 days, what would happen to you? You'd have skin flapping all over the place. You'd be a skin flapper. Do you want to be a skin flapper? I think not. But think about it. If you lost that 25 pounds over a period of a year, your skin retracts and your body looks great because it was the natural way. You see, this is what I'm getting at. What is the natural way to live life? The natural way to live life is to just begin to start changing your thought process a little bit every day, realizing that you're going in a direction, not judge yourself and stick with it. You see, persistency and consistency are the key. If you are a gym nut, as Bob is, he's a trainer, he works people out, he will tell you, you cannot get results unless you're eating pure 7 days a week, maybe a cheat meal every now and then. You're doing a specific weight program, a specific cardio program, and you're doing it over an extended period of time. My youngest son, Matthew, trained and did 2 Ironman triathlons. He didn't just get up one day and go do it. You don't just do that. It was 6 months of diet, 6 months of training focused on it. That's how he did it. This is really good coming at you now. This is really cool. Just because we can excel in one area of our life, let's take the area of money, okay? We excelled in money. We have a conscious thought pattern that money is good. We have a conscious thought pattern that money comes easy to me. We have a conscious thought pattern that money, I've got ideas and my ideas are good and people are going to buy into my ideas. It's natural, okay? So we're demonstrating abundance in money all over the place. It doesn't mean we're going to have an abundance in relationships. It doesn't mean we're going to have an abundance of health. Why? Because what is the thought atmosphere on those areas of life? You see, that's why when we're looking at the various major areas of life, whether it be our career, whether it be money, whether it be our relationships, whether it be being a parent, whether it be our health, whether it be being a person in the world, giving a gift that's hopefully changing the world to some degree, you've got to have a mental state, a predominant mental state on that point. Without that, you're going to fix one area and everything else is going to be stagnant. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is see your life in its allness, find the area that is the most challenging for you, put more effort into that area of shifting your thought, but don't neglect the others by not even focusing on them. When I do my prayer work in a day for myself, and I always start doing prayer work for Lee before I pray for members of the community that have asked me to pray, I always start with all areas. I focus on my health, my wealth, my ministry. I focus on my marriage, my children. I focus on my connection to God. That's where I start. It's my oneness. Every day I treat that I have a deeper experience of oneness in myself and as I treat and deal with others. You see, because you can't have an experience of oneness just by yourself. Because we're all part of the oneness of God. We were not meant to be in a cave. We were not meant to be gurus off in a cave in India. That's not what we were meant to do. We were meant to interact. It's like in our bodies. Our cells are not isolated from the other cells. They're interacting with all the other cells. That's the same thing true with us as humans. We're the human body. We're the human race. We're the human body of God, which meant we are to interact. So I'm going to ask you then, with the news going on about what's going on in the world in Iraq right now, to not be in judgment. I'm going to ask you to not look at who's right and who's wrong, but to realize that whoever's side is there, they're all expressing God. And what you pray for is you pray and hold a consciousness that there's a God spark within any of those individuals that are over there, and there's a spark calling them to love. And you want to call that forth, because the only way that we're going to ever change this country, change this world, change the race and the experience is when we can start seeing it differently. It's not about war, and it's not about hatred. That causes separation. That causes us to come out of oneness. That's difficult because we've been brought up to believe that our nation is always right. Let's face it. We were not brought here as a nation. We were brought here as individual expressions of God, and we're all part of the same God. The nation thing is a man-made item. I didn't even say woman-made. I said man-made. Very clear about that. Thank you. Man-made because it's about territorial. It's about separation. It's about being separate. That's not what we're about anymore. We're about taking this to a whole new level. We're about thinking things differently. You know, the Who did the song, We Won't Get Fooled Again, and the lyrics go, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. What they're saying is the same thing that happened then is happening now. So if you want to compare it, take the men and women who fought in Vietnam and afterwards were told we shouldn't have been there, but they gave their hearts and souls to support this country. Take the men and women that were in Iraq that were told they were defending the country, and it's the same situation all over again. Because the American people have not taken it upon themselves to think for themselves and say that the politicians do not know what's right. We are a loving, embracing expression of love. That's who we are. That's what we're here to be. And until we embrace that love, we're going to have separation. We're going to have war. We're going to have violence. The idea that you take away guns and things are fixed, that is not the issue. The issue is we must change consciousness. Until we change consciousness to one of love, it doesn't matter how many guns you take, they'll find something else. The people who want to do hurt find things. So it's got to be consciousness shifts. You see, we've gotten to a point where we have forgotten that it's consciousness that creates. We think it's human beings and things that create, and we're totally off basis. And that's one of the things why we don't change. We've got to come back to truth. We've got to come back to the idea it is the Father within, and it is done unto me as I believe. And the essence of all that I am is to love God, love allness as it is. And in that, I love myself as I am. And as I love myself as I am, I love you and everyone as you are. I hadn't planned on going there. I want you to know, but there was something in me that said, bring it. It's time to not just play small. It's time to not just address the issues in this room. It's time to be a greater consciousness. So what I'm going to ask you to do this week, I'm going to ask you to think about the areas of your life. Which area do you think you need to work on first? And start working on your thoughts. If you're looking for prayer beads, there's a whole group of them in back. If you're looking for ideas for affirmations, go to our website under spiritual practices, and you'll find an affirmations tab, and there'll be a tab down where you can download a PDF file with 30 that you can choose, change, do whatever you want. All that stuff is there for you. The other thing, too, is when you hear the news, always ask the question, is this serving love? If it's not serving love, turn it off. Just turn it off. And if someone's coming to you and they're talking about hatred, turn them off. God knows my wife at times just turns an aisle and goes like this, Lee, shut up. My son Stephen will look at me and say, Dad, you're out of alignment. Turns me off. And I get the privilege of turning them off as well. You see, that's what relationships are. Remember we started at the beginning about mirroring back? Well, if we put it out there that we want to be in truth, that we no longer want to be in drama, that we want to be about our highest expression, the people in our lives will support us doing that. And when they support us, we don't rebel against them. We say thank you. We don't have to defend ourselves. We say thank you. I'll think about it. We think about it. We decide if we're going to implement it. If we decide to implement it, we implement it, and we go into practice on it. So it's always about going into practice. Meditation, prayer, affirmations, gratitude, forgiveness, visioning, visualization, journaling. There's so many practices. There's one that resonates or two that resonate for you. If you want to know more, see Gene and I afterwards. We'll plug you in to where you can get this and how you can get it so that you can take control of your lives. Because what I see, what the people who started Agape see, is that the power to change the world is in this room. And the power to change the world is each of you. It's also each of the 850 people who are out there every week watching this talk on iTunes or listening on iTunes or watching on YouTube. You see, we are a community of 100 plus in here, but we have 850 a week watching it all over the world. Think about that. That's a huge consciousness. And if you just sit and you close your eyes, just close your eyes. Feel the energy in this room. Feel the energy in your body. Allow that energy to go out. Feel it. Let it vibrate through the ends of your fingers, through the bottom of your toes. Feel your heart opening and expanding. Feel yourself knowing that you are the divine, that you are perfect, whole, complete, just as you are. Feel divine wisdom flowing through you, saying, I will lead you, I will guide you, and you listen. For that divine wisdom is not something outside of yourself. It is the power of the Christ that is you. And what I know right here, as you go through this week, everything in your life begins to shift. Your mind changes. Your thoughts are changed. Your heart is opened. It receives the message. It acts upon the message. There is a lightness in the mind. The heaviness falls away. Freedom is reached. Freedom is felt. Freedom is expressed. Freedom is love. Love is life. Life is God. For this, I am grateful. And so it is. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.